I just had it down, but I had to stay 2 ways. I had to stay safe, and I was thinking. Right.
Well, I mean, you know,
That's what I'm going to get there.
I know. Yeah. So,
I
like,
was
taking
thinking,
advantage.
and it was, you know, when I saw that, because then when I.
What is up with this house? On the corner.
That's me.
They put the pink door in there black.
That's what I
So
love.
what
Painted it all the way black with a pink door. In Parks of Toledo where every house is white, cream, light cream, light tan, light gray. I don't know how they got away with this. There is an HOA. It's on the corner of their listing. Like, right, on the county corner. I drove by it. It's like, oh, they're.
Oh, they are.
I mean, it is really a cool looking house, but I can't believe an HOA was trying this. Have you ever been to Parks of Toledo? Every house is white or light cream or light tan or light gray.
It's like one of the-
Every single house. There's barely any that are just brick. Like they're all white. It's known for being a white.
Yeah.
painted brick. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Look,
this is good.
that
I
was already
wouldn't
there.
fly with the old
Yeah, so this is where she was talking about.
And it was already there too.
Yeah, she was just asking if it got better.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's
Yeah.
right here. It's exactly.
It looks better now or better?
Better now.
Oh, good.
6F homies. Homies.
Yeah, I will let her know. She was like, "There's a grass matter," and I'm like, "Well, I don't know how to get out there."
So like come out of the.
Do you live in the city?
And somebody's like, oh, he's ready for the beach. I was like, yeah,
There
that's
you go.
what it is.
Yeah.
He's ready for the
She's
beach.
watering it on
I'm
Friday.
getting off the phone tomorrow.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
like, okay.
Yeah. Somebody using Disney for sunscreen.
Yeah, we're gonna do this already.
So.
Okay,
It was
that
that
was
before and I was.
Well, she asked me about a tutor tomorrow there.
We could turn it down to 77.
She's right.
Yeah,
She's like 78. She's like,
I don't know what's.
She's not know how to do it like 8 until 5.
A certain way and then just turn like it was so cold.
Okay, I'll let her know.
When I was sitting there, I had some good ribs. I was sitting there like, oh.
It was like 7 stars and not
It was
just
a
7
7
prayer.
I was in there for 2 hours, but I mean, oh my God. Dang, it feels so good in here. It was hot, and I sat there for 2 hours. Like, oh, amazing.
Yeah, that a good idea. Another 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is how we end up on this.
Yeah, it's like, wait, you just handed your baby cereal again?
I didn't know.
They had all the power.
Right?
They came to the airport.
Yeah, yeah. Ours was
It
in
worked out
Colorado.
good, but gosh, I was so stressed. Only I had.
I was-
There was just enough whiskey.
Yeah. Chris was shooting, Tito's back, like, just throwing it back. He was like, all right, my man. And I was like,
Yeah.
one of us will be.
Everybody will vodka, that's right.
Well, Chris is not.
I'm so.
He put his way through.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, I don't, Chris texted me this morning. Have you ever been to Trans Vegas?
Yes, I
Okay,
did, yeah.
they're back on this year.
Oh,
It was
really?
not, they didn't know if they were gonna
Was
do
it
it or
last
not.
week in September, right? Yeah.
So we'll be out there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Tried to beg my way into playing that
You
festival.
should, it's a good time.
Or get a teepee spot, which doesn't work out either.
Huh?
Or try to run with those teepees. It's like.
Hey, what are you doing? Exactly. Oh, my. Right, 6 bad.
HOMIES.
No thanks.
Don't come out of this room. Obviously, don't.
You gotta have Wi-Fi. Gotta have Wi-fi.
I have a sick daughter, and so the baby, she's the babysitter all the time. She has the on church today.
Oh.
Good morning, everyone.
Sure did, yeah.
Thank you all for coming and joining with Sean at breakfast this morning. I sincerely appreciate you guys getting here at 9:45 because I don't feel like an idiot standing here trying to eat 45 bagels or.
I would have made you too.
And you would. So thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Let me start with our core value today. And we're going to tie this core value back into what we're going to talk about here in a little while. We are faithful to the idea of restoration. It is the heart behind all we do. Everything we do should have the end goal of seeing restoration. This includes houses, communities restored to what they once were, relationships restored and flourishing, neighborhoods improved, employee-employer relationships healthy and encouraging, and even seeing the way a business can operate restored with purpose and mission beyond just profit. Every aspect of our business and how we operate should be restorative in nature. The reason I picked this core value today is because I think what we are really seeing with the NAR settlement. Now, we'll give it some breadth because we still don't know all the ins and outs of how this is going to go. But I think it's going to restore our profession in the long run. I think we're going to see a lot of fly-by-night, a lot of people that don't need to be in the business get out of the business. And I think that's a good thing for all of us. There's plenty of inventory. There's plenty of buyers, plenty of business for all of us to have a very wide swath of business. I think that there's plenty of that. But the restorative things that we're about to go to is to restore our profession and the way that we communicate our value proposition to our clients. So I want us to think about restoration in those terms because I think it'll make us all better in the long run. Excuse me. Okay. Moving on to announcements. First of all, thank you to Mr. Sean Russell for breakfast, Jay, and joining us. We'll give him the floor in just a minute. Let me hit a couple of real quick announcements, and then we're going to turn it over to Sean. Hopefully, you all got my email about what Sean sent you guys yesterday. It all came through to your 6th Ave email, so I sent that to everyone. Don't forget, part-time agents can access the 6A required documents from the backside under productivity. There's a link that says part-time agents. Click here. New listing and buyer presentations are fully customizable in Canva. Now, when you go to backside productivity listing book, whatever I called it, listing presentation, buyer presentation.
Yeah.
When you get to that page, those are just clickable PDFs. And when you click that, it'll take you to a Google Drive file. You can download that file if you want to, but it'll say Emma Portman on a lot of them. Okay. Not clickable, not editable. It's just a PDF version. So if you want just a PDF that you can print, that's where you do that. At the top of both of those pages, it says listing presentation. And then I actually went back in and put click here because that's where you actually get to go into Canva, copy it to your Canva account, and then everything is editable. Editable.
That's a hard one.
Editable. Not edible, but editable. Okay. So just click if you want the whole Canva version. It's the top link. It's huge. I made it a headline 1, so it's big. Okay. Also, if you haven't gone over and looked at the new TAR forms website that I put on the backside, I just updated that yesterday. Put a couple more things and changed some links around. All of the forms that are changing are there that apply to us. I didn't put farm and ranch in there. Some of the other stuff that's back there, it's not there. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. But I'm every time I find something, I'm going back and updating that page. So that page is going to be a really good resource for you. Anytime TAR puts something out that comes to me from CTX or from Metrotex or Greater Fort Worth, that's where I'm putting all those links. So anytime I get how to fill this form out, I'll go watch the video and I immediately link it into the new TAR form. So you'll always have quick access to it. Semi-annual catch-ups started this week. Thank you for everybody that booked. I've got some time today, tomorrow, a little bit on Friday. Next week's going to be a little bit weird. Misty's going to have neck surgery Tuesday, so I'll be out Tuesday and possibly Wednesday. Jimmy will be here next Wednesday. Also, we'll be here with Kirsty and Fidelity Home Warranty. We'll bring breakfast next week, and Jimmy will be leading the discussion. So y'all be here for next Wednesday and show up for Jimmy too. 9:45, please. Okay. Today's the 17th. So Friday morning, the Baker firm is having another Zoom on the TAR forms. If you want to do that, the link was in Sunday night's email. I'll also put it in the follow-up in Slack later today on this. Phil got to go home with a new heart, and he's doing great. He's getting better all the time. Still call Jimmy with all pool leads, while we've got Kyle, who's the pool guy that's taking over for Phil right now. But Jimmy's still the point man for pool and outdoor. So call Jimmy with pool and outdoor leads. I'm working on the code of ethics. We talked about having a class here in the office. Nobody has one that they will bring to us. I'm still working.
Yes, Kelly Alamos said she would come do it for him.
Okay. To hook me up.
Okay.
Because I've got Liz from McKnight and Maddie from the Baker firm. Both of them, they can't find an instructor for code of ethics. It is probably going to be easier for you if you do it online through the links. It's probably going to be easier. But something we said we'd do, so probably September, I'll do something code of ethics. September, October.
Why easier? Like you take a test or something?
No, it's just easier for you to go through it because you can.
Let it run on your computer.
Yeah. Oh, because it's.
I have mail for you. Don't leave till I give you mail. It's 3 hours. It's 3 hours. So if we do it here at the office, it's a 9 to 12
It's like
kind of thing. But if you do it on your computer, you can still do laundry. Okay. So anyway, we have some celebrations that we need to talk about. So we don't. You guys probably have noticed that we don't do a lot of, who's in first place, who's in fourth place, and all that stuff. But occasionally we want to celebrate when we're having, number one, a great year, which we are only 5% away from what we did last year. So things are going very well. However, we have 2 agents that have capped. And I would like to take the time and say congratulations to Patty Smith, who's not here. She's looking for something, and Miss Jen Warren. We have 2 caps. So, and we have 2 that are about to cap, and that is Megan Chow and Clarissa Bush. Very close to cappage. So congratulations, everyone. Everybody's doing a great job. Those things are just, it's a milestone for the office when people cap out. But everybody's doing great. Everybody's having such a good year. The fourth quarter is should be really, really good, guys. It's just, things are lining up very well for us. Okay. So, Mr. Sean Russell, it's your turn. Would you please talk to us for 5, 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, sure. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sean Russell with First United Bank. We're a family-owned bank, so we're privately held. We keep all of our loans, all of our paper. My office is over in Clear Fork Ranch on the west side. There's a couple things that I thought. One thing that Brian said that I think is really interesting. Some of y'all are newer agents, and some of y'all are, but this whole thing, I am seeing in general that it is really a great opportunity. A lot of people that are your competition out there, they have built their reputation or their entire business off a model that someone else set up, like the expectation that your clients have of it being 3%. They are not going to be able to oversell that. So I do agree 100%. There's going to be a culling of the herd, and it's a great time to start. I started in this business in '98. And when I got out of the military, I was literally on the DMZ in Korea as a line sergeant in the infantry unit. And 2 weeks later, I was writing mortgage loans because there was no license required. And it was great because all the people that I worked with worked on these old models of how they did business, how business was. And it was very easy to trample them and to take over and create a whole new way of doing business, So it's a great opportunity. To just reinvent yourself and have that opportunity. You don't get a lot of those. You'll see those cycles come, but it's a great opportunity. You guys have a great brand here. I have spoken on a couple of things, but what kind of keyed a lot of this off for me, what I wanted to talk to you guys about is about that branding part and how you separate yourself. But what the reality of it looks like, because some of you are thinking, do I really want to jump into all these niche products? Am I going to get, you don't want to go out there, for instance, as a loan officer and tell everybody, which we do a 580 FICO FHA loan. Okay. I don't lead off with that. Okay. Because I'm not wanting to be known as the guy, that can do, can handle all these. I can do that stuff. Absolutely. But what I want to try to do is separate myself and offer programs that could help you to market yourself. But I also want you to understand that the things I'm going to tell you about most of your clients, once they talk to me about it and they've already had the time with you and now you found out that they are interested in something you didn't know or somebody you've never even heard of all of a sudden reaches out to you, the work has already done itself. And then it's just a matter of now you've got a client, now you've got a connection. And I'll give you an example. Jimmy and I were actually talking about it. There's a program for investors. I just put it out on the social media on my MySpace page yesterday. It's it's a program for investors called DSCR lending. Has anyone ever heard that term before? Okay. So if you haven't heard it, there's two ways you qualify for an investor loan. One is you allocate tax returns to W-2s, how much money you make. So if you make $10,000 a month and you're trying to get an investment property that's going to cost you $3,000 a month, I can't take any of the rent into consideration. That's the traditional way of qualifying. But there's another way, and that is using the rent on that property. So we get rent schedules. We show we've got a property that's going to rent for $3,000 a month, should, based on the square footage. The mortgage, taxes, insurance, that's going to be $2,800 a month. I'm going through this fast because I don't think you need to sell all this, but I want you to understand the effect, which is that I put this basic thing out there explaining that. You still need 20% down. There's a lot of other things that people don't necessarily know. Well, I sent it out to all my database, and I've been at my bank for about 10 years. Sent it out on social media. So I get 16 leads from it, okay? Of those 16 leads, 3 of the people really just wanted a second home, and it will work for them to do a second home. So they're kind of looking at VRBO, kind of that kind of Airbnb thing, but they can call it a second home because they plan to spend an amount of time there. So 3 of them immediately converted over to a regular old loan that they qualified the whole time, but they thought they needed a DSCR loan because they heard about it. That's the way to do investor loans. Another one, the rate was better for them to qualify using the traditional way, and they had no problem qualifying. They were holding off because they were looking for somebody for a product they didn't even need, you know. And then I had one customer out of all the people I sent out, 1,000 people, one customer that right now is in the running to actually utilize this. He's self-employed, claims absolutely no income whatsoever, and yet this house, it will work because it should show rent flow. So what I'm talking about, what I put in that email is kind of that mentality. It's like, I think of it like, what can I throw out there? What are some different things I can differentiate myself? And your brand here, you know, most of you, I think, realize it, but I hope you know what your brand is in this town. I mean, you guys have an excellent brand built around construction and design and taste and South Side and boutique that, I mean, I deal with some very high-end agents a lot of times, and there was some you know, different agencies that everybody recognizes their name, but that name is not theirs. You know what I mean? Like 6th Avenue and what you'll have here. So you guys are tied to construction. You guys have a pool division. Do you guys know that your customers, you can advertise, market to customers who think they want to buy a house and not a pool? I will tell you right now, it's a regular conventional loan. Okay. Your customers are going to come in. They're going to say, okay, house is $300,000. Pool is going to be $50,000, which is
Let's get real.
It's tough.
What is this night? Is that on your MySpace page? Is that on your MySpace page?
Yeah, that's what they think, and then it turns out that they want something that's more than waist deep and more than 5 feet wide. You know, so anyways, once they see the cost, maybe that turns away. But now you spent time with them, you connected. You know they're looking for a house now. You can help them with that. Maybe they put off the pool thing till later. You're helping them with a house now. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to be a subject matter expert in all things about pools. You don't need to be an expert on my programs. You get them connected. You find out. It's like, let's focus on the house first. You know, what are you looking for? Blah, 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 blah. All the normal stuff you do. Then the pool thing is something that you have offered to help bring them in. That's what I'm proposing. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so there's 4 areas. I mean, you guys have a unique, like, that is also applies to people that want to buy and remodel. I will tell you right now, on that buy and remodel, when people hear about all the things that they have to do, 9 times out of 10, because everybody's watched a lot of HGTV. Everybody wants to be Chip and what's her name? Joanne. Everybody thinks that, and they think it's all going to take 24 hours, and then reality sets in. They talk to their contractor. They don't want to do all that stuff. Maybe a little cosmetic, maybe a little wallpaper here and there, and update a few appliances, which they can do that. Okay, we do have a but again, advertise it. You guys have that brand already built here, you know, as something that you can do. So I'm just saying, talk about it enough, or talk to me enough about it to where you feel confident enough to just throw out some bullet points and then turn them over to me. You know, I think those are 2 programs. Now, doctor loans, medical, I mean, we've got niche programs like that we can help you with, but just think of them as tools to separate yourself, because what I see 90% of is videos about listings, videos of things that it just looks like kind of the same stuff that everybody's doing. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong. You have to do that also. But the way that you separate yourself to where you know, it's just a way of separating yourself from just doing that. I mean, you know, when you've got listings and stuff like that, that's what you should be doing. But so on those programs, when you guys reviewed, I gave 4 main points, okay? And you guys feel free to respond back or reach out to me on anything that you want to try to target or you want to try to utilize. I can also send you videos that I've made, for instance, on these subjects, you know, because I'm trying to attract agents who are trying to bring in people because they hear from people, oh yeah, I want to buy a house and fix it up. It's like, let's go talk. What kind of house you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. The intake. Now I spent 15, 20 minutes with you on the phone. Let's set up a meeting to talk about this more. Let me talk to you and introduce you to a couple people that you're going to need to know on the design side. Then they talk numbers and they're like, yeah, I can't afford that. I don't want to do that. Well, it's your customer now. So now you find what they can afford. And maybe all they can do is paint the house and maybe fix this. And that's it, you know. So, but utilize that. And I'd be glad to help you with other things. Anything you guys are hearing from anybody else, we are a direct lender. We have the only niche program I don't have is a true stated income loan where because I hear about that stated income or bank statement type loans. I don't have those type of loans. Those are, my brother was up here. That's who I refer them all to. My brother can do all that crazy stuff and I toss it his way and he goes crazy. So, I know he doesn't look like he's my brother. He's
Seriously, he walked in, I was like, yeah, this guy related to Sean, and I didn't know. I could tell immediately.
yes, we have a lot. We still have a lot of questions from my mom. But no, but that's the thing. It's like, you know, he's in the mortgage broker world. I'm in the banking world. There's a lot of differences. Those type of partnerships as a contrast are great. You need to have a direct bank and you need to have a good broker because as rates move, sometimes, you know, my brother will have stuff. I bounce my rates off his and he does the same thing to me. So not that it has to be us because our voices sound very similar on the phone actually, but, and will confuse your customers possibly, but, but anyways, the only thing, so are there anything, if y'all looked at that email, are there any kind of products y'all heard about that y'all would be interested in finding out more information? I'll be around. The only other thing on the backside that of course is the question everybody has is the question of, you know, where rates are, where the Fed's moving. The main thing, and I've said this before, the Fed is already announcing when they're going to have their schedule. They're going to have 2 adjustments this year. Banks, what they do. So people's perception is already, I get this. I'm going to wait till after the election. Okay. Has anybody else heard that so far? I'm going to wait till after the election. After Jesus wins this next election, you know, everything will be fine. It's like, look, we are already hedging. And that just means we are already moving our rates to adjust for what we think the Fed is going to do. So we've already adjusted our rates down slightly and then we'll go down more based or, you know, or adjust based on what the Fed actually does. And then we'll start anticipating the next move right away. We're thinking ahead because by the time the loans close, all this other stuff, our rates are going that direction. We're trying to create enough of a buffer to be profitable between now and then. But your customers are perceiving that as if the Fed calls us up like, First United Bank on these drop rates quarter. That is not what happens. No one's calling us. We are deciding for ourselves. So keep that in mind. Educate your customers. And a great example you can use, $400,000 loan. If rates drop the 1% that we think that they're going to, let's say it's just again a $400,000 loan. Do any of you have you guys ever looked at calculation for who wants to guess about how much that is in savings? A 1% drop on a $400,000 loan. Don't ask Siri.
Per month?
Yes.
400.
No, not that much. About $250. So it's about $250 a month.
So it's like $50 a point or something.
Well, yeah, no,
half and a
it's
quarter?
like on your $400,000 deal, which is probably close to your average home. I don't know, $400 to $450. So you're talking $200 to $250. Most of the customers that y'all probably deal with that they would save, right? So take that over a year. So you wait until Trump, wins or rates start coming down. Well, when rates start coming down, again, the market's going to go up. So again, I'll tell you right now, if you look at a 1 year basis, the number is almost 10 to 1. Almost every scenario I've looked at. So you save $250 a month, so $3,000 a year. The price of that house in 1 year, just by the normal 5% margin, is going to go up by $20,000. I mean, it's almost a 10 to 1 ratio of what they lose by waiting. So keep that in mind. Keep them off the fence. Make it seem like this is your strategy to stay ahead of this curve. Right? This isn't just about educating you once it's happened. It's too late then. This is a value that you have to remind your customers to stop being a hamster on the wheel and start thinking like wealthy people think, which is that my money is going to save $3,000 if I sit and wait until Jesus wins the election. It's not going to help me. But what I am going to do is probably pay as soon as rates drop,
$30,000 is what I'm losing by sitting on the fence. You have to save $3,000. Let's say it goes 2 years. I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. It's 2 whole years. So that's $6,000
Yeah.
versus $50,000 to $60,000 they lose on that house. There's just no time is not our friend. That's all. So is that a lot enough for the fire hydrant?
You did great.
So
Thank you,
good.
Sean.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, everybody say thanks to Sean for coming and thanks for the information. I will put Sean's contact information in the Slack.
For investors?
Sort of. Not really, but it's just, we want to use our equity. to
Oh,
buy
yeah.
something else that
Yeah.
we don't-
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I will put Sean's contact information in the Slack follow up today, so you guys will have that. Put your email and your phone number in there. So we'll be good. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, man. All right. All right. So for the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to talk. And this is going to be just a brief synopsis of what's going on with the Texas market. And then we're going to get more local with Tarrant, Parker, Wise, and the county stuff. So I'm going to share this with you guys. Let me find my mouse. As always, I'm always looking for my mouse. There it is. Okay. Present here. I want to present my Google Keep. All right. So I'm going to pop this up here and I'm going to read it to you, and I'd like for you to follow along. This is from MetroTex, and they kind of just did a brief synopsis of what's going on with the year. So the hot North Texas home builders saw, the hot start North Texas home builders saw in the first 3 months of the year cooled slightly in the spring. DFW builders started 942 new homes between April and June, which is a drop of 5% from nearly 15,000 starts in Q2 of 2023. The slowdown was due to a minor buildup of finished inventory. Builders sold off more than 1,100 finished vacant homes from their inventory in the second quarter. Area home builders reported a slowdown in sales from May to July. High interest rates coupled with a slowdown in jobs and relocations were key factors. In June and July, rates have continued to hover around 7%. For the week ending July 11th, the rate was 6.89. Builders continued to use interest rate buy-down programs to make homes more affordable. Selling still a challenge. Builders of entry-level homes remained aggressive, but the market for homes above 1 million in Northern Metroplex was weakened somewhat, Wilson said. We're hearing from builders that traffic and sales are down 20 to 25% in some neighborhoods. Those that are getting sales many times are having to sacrifice profit margin to get them. Builders are hoping for a Federal Reserve cut in the fall with additional cuts in the spring of 2025. According to Texas A&M Real Estate Center, nearly 90,000 sales reported through the MLS for the 12 months ending May 2024. That's a 3.52% decrease year over year. As of May, there were 25,926 listings in North Texas, which is a 48% increase from last year. There are 3.5 months of housing inventory in DFW, the highest rate since November of 2012. I want you to understand, 3.5 months is still a seller's market, slightly. 5 to 7 months is considered a balanced market. So 3.5 months of inventory. If you don't know what that number is, I'll go over it in just a second after I finish this thing, but I want to explain what that absorption rate looks like. However, the median price of DFW homes is $410,000, up 1.2% from last year. Some positive trends for the second quarter. On a year-over-year basis, home starts in DFW are up 28%. New home closings were up slightly. Annual closing rate reached a record high of 53,000, up less than 1% year over year. The number of units under construction near 29,000 at the end of June, a 1.4% rise from last quarter. So back up just slightly to what inventory, when we say 3.5 months of inventory, what does that actually mean?
Based on the current number of buyers, that's how long it would take to sell them all.
Correct. The current number of buyers in the market looking now, how long would it take for all the houses, if nothing else comes on the market, how long will it take? That's called your absorption rate. And that's something that you need to keep an eye on, something that I watch all the time. I watch the number of listings, but on my MLS, on my matrix, the homepage, I've got last 7 days average. I'm watching those sliders where I'm looking at 700 houses went on the market, 300 closed. It means our market is expanded. So those are numbers that we always watch. If you go back and you look, I know you guys have heard me say this many times, but every day I watch the number of houses for sale in Tarrant County. That's the number I want to know. When we started this year, we were at 2,300. Right now, we're over 5,000 in Tarrant County. Okay. All right. I'm going to share something else now. Share this tab. Okay. So here are the June 2024 housing stats. I want to read this up here at the top. 1,000 homes sold in June 2024, which is 7.6% less than June of 2023. 344,700 is the median price in June, which is 1.8% more than June of 2023. 3.5 months of inventory in June of 2024. Look at that number right there. 1.2 was what we had last year. 1.2 months of inventory. Now we're at 3.4, 3.5.
So days on markets are longer.
Well, I'm about to tell you, average days of the home spent on the market is 41 this year. Last year, it was 4 days more than June of 2023. We had 37 in June of 2023. We're at 41. 33 is the average number of days to close in June of 2024. Here is your Fort Worth housing report for Fort Worth. Here is Tarrant County. The median price went up 0.5%. Active listings went up 40% and closed sales are down almost 10. Here's Parker. Look at those numbers going up, except for the closed sales going down, but not as bad.
Oh, it's not.
Y'all are at a balanced market, 5.3 months. Johnson County.
Yeah, but look at that.
Okay. So now we are going to have some discussion about the long form of buyer representation agreement versus the short form. I don't have a bunch of answers. We are all just walking through this thing together. There's no magic. There's no magic number. There's no magic formula. We just have to do it. Now, we had a conversation, Jimmy and I had a conversation yesterday about the short form showing services. We talked about that last week. Showing services is now an option on the short form. For instance, here's a scenario. You get a call from a Zillow lead, and the Zillow lead says, hey, I would like to see 4 houses this afternoon. Today, many agents would go, I'll be glad to show you that house, because that's what Zillow has always trained people to do. You go out there, you meet the people. While you're there, hopefully you would have them sign an IABS. Hopefully you would have them sign a buyer representation agreement for at least those houses. The reality is that that's just not been the case. Okay. That's not, most people don't do that. Most people jump up, show the house, and then worry about getting those forms signed later. I get it. That goes away August 17th. You can't show a house as a 6 Ave agent, as a realtor, without having some type of representation agreement. The short form is your friend. I, as the broker, would like for you to have the IABS and the short form signed. Okay. On the short form, I'm going to show it to you right now.
August 17th.
August 17th is when all this goes into effect. Okay. So the people online, I apologize. You're going to have to really just follow along. I want you to look at paragraph 5. If you're looking at the screen, and we have 2 options, and I'm going to squeeze by you real quick. We have 2 options. We have full services. We have showing services. Showing services would be, I'm going to take you and I'm going to show you 3 houses. What do you charge for that? Well, that's up to you. Okay. Here's the kicker. They can't pay you. It has to be paid to the broker according to the NAR settlement. So it has to come through us. Now, we are not going to take a cut if you decide to do showing services. I would prefer that you didn't, because I would prefer you to convert these people, be talking to them about buyer's representation agreements, what this actually means, and show the full services. That is the preferred method. There's going to be a time that somebody needs to use the showing services, and you're going to charge, I'm just going to pick a number, okay? I'm going to say $1,000 a house.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go to
That's
that.
not a real number. I know what everybody's probably gonna charge, like Xiaomi or all these other services, it's 35, 50 bucks. But let's just say it's $1,000 a house. So, Mr. Buyer, I will show you these 4 houses in Fairmount for $1,000 a house. You owe me $4,000. Okay, how do I pay you that? Personal check, personal check, cashier's check, or money order payable to 6th Avenue Homes. When that gets paid, you will hand deliver it to Rachel. Okay? Please don't, you can put it on her desk, but if you do, put a sticky note on it that says, Jen Warren showed buyer 5 houses, paid me $5,000, put it on a note and put it on Rachel's desk with the check. Okay? Then we'll give us a week, because if it's personal check, we got to get cash. We got to make sure we can't be paying you if the buyer's going to bounce a check to us. Prefer not a personal check, but it is what it is. Does this all make sense? Any questions?
Personal check, cashier's check, or what?
Money order.
So there's
No
way to
Venmo or
do
PayPal?
Electronic.
We have decided that at this point, this is going to be the best way because we don't have an account set up for any of those things.
But you can by August 17th.
What buyers are they personal check, money order, cash?
Sure.
They can get it by the end of the week though, like by Saturday. But what if they want to go look that afternoon
I
or that
know.
next day?
It's not very limited there for the broker.
It's not,
Correct. And
it's not.
and it's another operation for Rachel.
But I would think doing electronic, she can transfer it automatically from her computer with the cashier or with any kind of check. She's gonna have to, I guess she could do it. The things have not
Well,
happened.
we pay, we pay online all the time for
Yeah.
like t-shirts and stuff, so we have something.
We do have PayPal, but I would think for tax purposes, you could not mingle those funds. It would have to be a separate account.
Strictly for that.
Specified for.
I'll see what I can do.
I do
Otherwise,
think
you're
it's
gonna
gonna be
almost
more
commingle
beneficial if
funds
that's
and it's gonna
for
be. you're gonna get
agents,
trouble
because
for
no buyer, I don't carry checks all the
Yeah.
time. I mean,
Yeah, but
Well-
they could Venmo you and you could write a check to Rachel.
can we do that?
You
for
know,
you?
I know.
Let's not start, let's not ruin NAR settlements before it goes into effect.
The goal is not to make showing money.
No, it's not.
It's
But if
not.
it were,
But
that's the
it
easiest-
does exist as a possibility.
does.
So let me work on Mr. Jimmy about if we can do a Venmo or Zelle or something like that. Maybe just transfer it to my phone. I don't know. I mean, because I am the broker, so it could come directly to my cell phone legally.
Yeah.
As long as I don't commingle funds,
Yes.
which then I gotta
Then
create
you've got to
another
be
one.
an account on your own.
Yeah.
Can you make that, if say that you want to do like a, cause I have something going on that's similar to this right now, but say you want to do like a, retainer that comes out at closing, but you need to pay part of it up front. Can you do that? And if so, could you write it as showing services or full services? Because I am thinking
What do you
about doing it
mean
on one of my
retainer?
clients that's just giving me a runaround for over a year. So I'm thinking about making him pay a retainer. I need to know how
I
to
think
pay
it just
it.
has to be deposited at the title company, doesn't it?
Wait a minute. What did you say?
I'm gonna have one of my clients pay me a retainer that I'll take out whenever he buys a house, because it's getting ridiculous and he's never bought a house for over a year.
So like you.
I'm gonna make him
$1,000.
I mean, are you
and then
okay?
I'm gonna charge him $5,000.
I mean,
Then,
I
and
don't
then
know.
I would credit it back to him at closing, but he needs to pay it up front now. I'm not trying to do
But
more
you-
houses.
I mean, or can we do that where you put like a deposit down?
This was another realtor's idea. I didn't.
Well, I
so
know,
don't
because I've heard about this.
You can't take it.
Right, but
You
you can
can
do something.
I could.
Here we could.
As a
No,
broker,
I-
I could take it, but let me talk to an attorney.
Because I was wondering if that was back.
There's a lot of gray area here.
Well, see, I'm thinking maybe
What now?
I'm doing the ADR right now,
Uh-huh.
and they just touched like the segment that I did, they touched on the retainer.
I have to ask that
Don't
question.
we put in the title? What if you don't end up being able to use a certain house?
I would think you would put it at the brokerage, and then when you do your CDA.
Yeah.
They just credit it back.
Yeah, they credit it back.
The lender's gonna have to know.
So, okay, so let's go ahead and finish this form because I want to, yes, I'll definitely ask that question. Yes, we need to talk about Zelle and Venmo.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a pretty simple form, okay? I want you guys to understand that this can be for one house. This contract, this short form, this can be for one house. This can be for one day. That's the shortest time period that you can do, okay? So you could say, this agreement begins on July 17th and ends on July 17th. I'm your agent for today. I'm going to give you full services or showing services. You may not fill out number 7 if you choose 5 showing services. It even says it. 6, 7, and 8 do not apply. Pretty simple? Okay, so the goal is to do full services. The goal is for you to explain your value and for you to get a full services agreement. My question to Tar is, if you're gonna do full services, why would you not fill out the long form?
That's what
Right.
Right, that's what I was wondering.
Because you're setting yourself up for liability by not going over everything that's in the full buyer's.
I agree.
For compliance, the long one is required though, right?
No, this form is
For
This-
6th Ave.
for this form is completely legal to use.
That's a tar. Can
As
you
a tar
make it as
form.
a 6th Ave?
No, I mean for like, for our brokerage, when we're getting things, like when we're getting our document signed and stuff like that, like.
This would
will
suffice.
Okay,
This would suffice while TAR does this.
Okay.
Eventually, I think this will go away. I think kind of like the
why would you
amendment.
Yeah.
because then definitely you can just do one for showing service addendums, like just one specific.
Yeah, this would be like, I think that's what the problem with the
Yeah.
broker lawyer committee will come to is like, oh, wait a minute. Why don't we just, but I understand why they're doing this, to give people an option for those one-day showings, those, one-off things. I get it. But it seems like it would be, let's just make this one showing services and then we'll make the buyer representation agreement. But I'm not a broker.
But is everyone doing the long one though?
That's what I was wanting to know, like, can we just do the long one as
Yes.
long as we have this conversation? And only would need to do this if we're doing a one day thing or a showing service, right? Otherwise I can just keep doing the old
Yep,
one.
absolutely. And I would
So
prefer
we
it
have a
actually.
conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but if you do full services, then you need to fill out this stuff here. Okay? Purchases, percent of the sales price, or a flat fee. Remember that you can only get up to what you get right here. You cannot write the words up to 3%. You can only put 3%.
So if
or
you get a bonus
2.5.
and you've got to go back and make them sign it again, like if you.
An amendment.
Before.
You have
Okay.
to- If you get a bonus from a builder, you have to go sign an amendment where you tell your client, like we talked about last week, as far as like,
Such
hey,
clarity.
I'm going to show you Highland Homes, and they are offering bonuses to you and to me. So our buyer's representation agreement, if we go with Highland Homes, we'll have to re-sign that because I'm going to get a bonus and I need you to let you know about it. Say again,
This is like extreme CYA.
Mhm.
that's where we are.
I would almost say that if you go to a builder, I would probably use the words like they're going to extend incentives to you and I both.
Right,
Great.
right.
I just think that
Right.
Yes, go ahead.
So it's almost like they're paying me
Yeah,
10,000
yeah.
so that.
We
I-
both-
Yes.
I have a question
both
about
get it.
renters, because I have these renters right now
Uh-huh.
that I just kind of randomly got. In the past, the renters have usually been somebody I know, so I have them sign just so that they take me more seriously, like,
Okay.
I didn't with these. This is the first 2 people that I've never had them sign anything, but with all of this, with renting, some people pay $1,000, some people pay 30%. Does that exact number need to be on, because there's a renter rep as well, it's the same thing. Does that percentage need as of today?
As of August 17th,
Okay, so I'm okay, like I can get them to sign tomorrow
a
and
buyer representation agreement? Yes.
and then I can just,
Right now, there is not, you're not super required to have an IABS and buyer representation agreement out there before you go show a house.
Not mandatory.
Right now,
It's not.
except
mandatory.
that it's highly recommended.
But on the leasing, standard, right, because on the leasing, you would even put, if you did not buy, you lease, and it's 30, you have to pay me 30% if the, landlord doesn't pay the 30%.
Correct.
If it, we need to say, we put in 50% and then we amend it later for rentals. Have you heard
Yeah,
anything
because rentals
about?
changes every.
Oh,
single
yeah,
time.
true. Yeah. Might be So I $1 just don't or know, a because as of
percent.
now,
I would just put up to
Well,
100%
and-
nobody's been checking it, and you just get that check.
You're gonna have to make those judgment calls as you go, because you're gonna run into, having a conversation with your client, your tenant client or your buyer client of some rentals pay 30%, some pay $400. I charge this amount. If we go see all these houses that you want to see and they don't offer what I'm getting,
Right.
I'm gonna have to ask you to make that up because this is how I get paid.
Yeah, I've never done that And then always gonna be a buyer eventually.
Right.
Well, then you can adjust it whenever it's not $1,000 and change it to 250 if you want. The same way that you would.
I mean, but so do we have to change the amendment if we put in a higher amount?
No.
So like
Just
say on a
up to that.
purchase, I say I'm 5%, as long as it's under that.
That's true.
Oh, okay.
My understanding?
If you put 1,000, if you put 1 month's rent for rental, you're probably gonna cover yourself.
Yeah.
But it has to
Okay,
be
but you
dollar,
can't, you
100%
can't,
of 1 month's rent.
well, you can't put,
Percent,
number
100%.
two.
Oh, yeah, it's on there.
You're
Yeah,
probably
I've done
gonna
that.
cover yourself for most rentals.
Yeah.
Right.
You just cover.
okay, but if you put 100% in there, then they owe you 100% of 1 month's rent.
You can do it.
You could amend it.
You would amend that then.
You can amend it.
That was up to that amount. You can get paid over, but you can get paid under.
It's one extra step, but yes, it's doable.
But do you have to then charge them the difference? You can.
No, I don't think you'd have to. but
And I think
that's
Jen-
actually could.
Janice got,
I think you would.
Janice got a good point.
You could definitely, like if you put 3% buyer's rep and the agent's offering you 2.5.
I would amend mine and adjust it down.
Yeah.
Janice
I
got a
think
point.
Better to start off high and work down than
Yeah.
start low and say, now I get more.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get more.
Yeah.
So.
You're gonna pay.
So put 100% in there, but it's not up to 100%. It's gotta go back and amend it, right?
Okay, now we're gonna move on. We've got about 15 minutes left, guys, and I want to be very efficient with your time. This is the amended version of this form. I'm sorry that when I went to go pick it up, it had all the corrections on it. But I wanted to point out a couple things here. This looks very similar to everything that you've seen before. They just changed a couple of words here and there.
We'll go back up because you're skipping an important part. On the market area. Because normally, that's normally what I do. Is it okay to still just put county?
That's what I put.
For example, insert property address, subdivision, city, county, zip code, etc. So Tarrant County, Wise County, Parker County, and surrounding areas, and all municipalities in this city. They changed the way that it's presented, okay? Instead of commences, it begins on. This is where it changes, right here is on page 2. This is the broker's compensation. So it's very similar to what we saw on the short form. They just have they moved everything here. And so this is what you're going to see from now on.
I think the scary part is that most agents don't present this and they don't know how to, and then they just kind of slide it in, right as they're writing up an offer instead of doing it at the beginning and really going through and explaining it.
See, and for me, I don't feel like the conversation has changed that dramatically for me because I've always gone to that page and been like, hey, so very many times the seller will extend buyer's compensation. If not, you would be responsible for this at closing.
Exactly right.
And I mean, I know because I even made a buyer a long time ago. Tim Nystrom enforced it because a buyer's rep, because he was like, nope, that's what you signed. And you went to enforce the owner and that's what you owe us. So, I mean, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to just kind of breeze through the rest of this because there's not a lot of other changes. They changed all the paragraphs because they moved everything to 7. This is coming from paragraph 13. That's where it used to be. They just moved it up to paragraph 7. So that's why that's all redlined. This is the long version. It's now 7 pages instead of 5? They just changed all the paragraphs and they've just put those as place markers. There's one here. Excuse me, my throat is not killing. It's killing me today. Sorry, guys. So
I don't understand why we need the short form.
Well,
This now.
okay, so the short form, the only thing that I can figure is that the short form is there so that we have the option for showing services, which is part of the settlement.
Just the home video, that's right, just that short thing or
Okay.
the 1 day thing or whatever, okay.
And if you were this gives you a very quick way to print this form out,
True.
take it with you to a showing and say, this is what we're going to do as opposed to going through a 7-page document
Yeah, that's true.
with a Zillow buyer.
Yeah,
But
right.
it keeps you in compliance.
Keeps you in compliance.
That's
Now,
your first date, apparently.
yes,
Yeah.
So keeping with compliance, we as Sixth Avenue agents and we have listings, how do we, what are we recommending that we hold agents that are showing to be compliant? Are we asking them to furnish us with their buyer's rep before we let our sellers approve a showing? I mean, what do we do?
You're looking at me and I'm looking at you.
And also how are we gonna?
Well, there's that, I don't know how.
Open houses don't change. Open houses, open houses don't change whatsoever because you are representing the brokerage.
Correct.
Yeah,
But
but
you're
you have
only-
to submit with the offer.
There, the form that has to come with is the 20.
So that will take care of that.
But it'll come with the offer,
Right. But not a show.
but not a showing, correct?
Correct.
But I think I would
We
be
don't
questioning
care.
yourself in the foot by not letting them see it. I don't know. Because if I'm saying, oh, but I need to see that before I finish see it, then they're probably gonna be like, yeah, no.
I would,
I
is our responsibility to make them comply?
Yeah,
It needs to
I-
be submitted with an offer. I just
Right.
don't think
Yeah.
It needs to be submitted. with a
Yeah.
show.
No.
That's their compliance. If they
Yeah,
didn't do
I
it,
agree.
they didn't do
That's
it.
on them. They're gonna get fined.
Right.
Or with their brokerage, get
Right.
back or whatever.
Okay,
If they
so
don't have it, don't.
we're gonna jump over real quick.
So it just-
I highly recommend that you all go to the new TAR forms, click the frequently asked questions page. I started to go through that with you guys today, and I decided it was a little bit too much down the rabbit hole. There's some really, really good information questions there, and they're answered. Please go to the backside, hit new TAR forms, or go to quick links and hit new TAR forms on Slack and go read these, okay? So this document down here, this is the 2701. That is, and that's got a thing there that shows you, click that and it tells you how to use the form, okay? That's the amendment. The 2406 is the addendum regarding broker fees. That's how you get paid as a buyer's agent. Let me hit the form. Let me just open
When is
this.
that one required again?
When you submit an offer,
When, like what date?
August 17th, this goes into effect.
Okay.
1 month from today.
I started using that.
Please do. Get used to it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is how you're getting paid right here. This has to accompany every offer. We are going to make this mandatory in ReChat. It has to be. This form, the 2406, is mandatory. Yes, ma'am.
Have the forms been uploaded to ReachOut, like the new ones?
I haven't looked. I haven't looked. They should have been. All the providers are supposed to have updated their forms. It's all in zip forms.
But does it declare that as a requirement?
No, that's Brian. Brian is the guy that says that's required. Me and Victoria and I. Sorry, I started saying me and Victoria, but it's Victoria and I.
You're third person.
What are you for?
I try to be proper, especially when you're standing in front of a group and you're saying things, words come out of your mouth. You don't want to sound like an idiot, like I normally do. When I go back and watch the videos, when I'm putting this stuff up for y'all, I'm watching through it. I'm like, oh my God, did I say that? So I'm so sorry for.
Why?
Yeah, we already forgot it.
Have you met most of us?
Well, but I know you guys, y'all,
But we know you too.
I know, but I say some things that come out of my mouth. I'm like, I'm not saying that. Okay, so this stuff. I was looking through some of these documents, and this. Make sure you get the print when you're going to get all this stuff. All the new documents have got the print line, so you can use zip forms or whatever you're using for your signing to get the printed name and wet signatures if you want wet signatures. But I think, DocuSign's still going to be your best friend. AuthentiSign for the part-time agents, you guys can use AuthentiSign, which is part of zip forms. So
Did you
change it.
Yeah, I think you have to. Well, I don't use it anymore. That's what was my go-to for forever.
Yeah, mine too.
What was?
It's just, you know, forms, just use that, whatever that one is.
AuthentiSign?
Yeah.
Well, if you're not using your DocuSign, let me know because we can save a little bit of money if you're not using it. If you don't want it.
Well, I love the one through ReachOut.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
system through ReachOut is like,
Yeah.
I like it too.
Okay. So let me back up to the TAR forms real quick and just hit this one. Okay. So just so you guys know what's here, the listing documents, the exclusive right to sell and the exclusive right to lease and the amendment to listings are all new. That seller's authorization to release and advertise certain information, that's where you get the permission to advertise what your seller is offering to a buyer in concessions. 1412. 1412. Okay, I'm gonna say some words. Sorry, video. If your seller is advertising that he will pay a buyer's agent a percentage that looks kind of like that. Okay, if he's advertising that,
Can you do that again? I need to-
no, I did it to the side so that it's not on video. But if your seller is advertising that he will pay a percentage to a buyer for whatever they want to use, 1412.
So only then.
Then you have the authorization to,
For anything, right? Even if they're wanting to pay seller concessions.
yes, thank you.
Any type of seller concessions. And then that way you can put whatever it is they're offering, say on your website
So
and put in offer instruction, like
I'm gonna ask about that too.
You can have it there.
it's,
Hang on.
that's one of those TAR frequently asked question things.
Mhm.
It specifically says that you can advertise seller concessions on a website,
Correct,
even if it has an IDX MLS
correct.
thing.
So we need to find out if we can have a page where everybody, when y'all put a listing on, you would email me and say, Brian, my seller is advertising and here's my authorization to put this number.
Just submit the form. And be done.
No, yes, email it to you.
Yeah.
It should have everything on there that
Yeah.
you would need.
And then I can build a website inside Sixth Ave's, the main page, not the backside, but on the Sixth AveHomes.com. And we can say, here is Sixth Ave's offers of compensation. That would be really cool.
That would
Or
be-
just offer instructions. This is, Sixth Ave agent offer instruction guidelines. And you direct them there in MLS.
Yeah. No, it can't tie to MLS. You can't have anything that ties to MLS is my understanding. But we'll see. Taja sent me something from California where they're putting something
We're
in.
putting seller contributions instead of BAC, seller contributions to the transaction. They just
That's-
changed
Which
the
will
wording.
probably be.
But, I mean, if you think about it,
On
this is an antitrust law. I mean, this is why this is a big deal, is it antitrust? Because they think we colluded. That's how we're keeping the 2 and 3% going on there. So that's why they're taking off the MLS, really. I mean, that's my understanding.
Mhm.
It's just so we're not sharing information. You can call, they can text it to you and put it on your website. It just cannot be on MLS because that is colluding, right?
Colluding.
So that's
So,
why it's antitrust.
Can you imagine setting up a show? Can you imagine setting up a showing tour with 7 houses and then having to text every one of the agents and say, how much is your seller offering concessions?
Yeah, I can just imagine that a Facebook page is gonna be created for new listings in VFW and people are gonna be like, hey, by the way, in the picture. I just think, but I do understand from an antitrust issue, I guess, if it was an antitrust.
2.5.
You're like that. Yeah, I just think I think we're gonna.
Sign
I think
language
it's
and
in
new
12
meaning.
months, we're gonna laugh about all this.
Yeah.
I do too.
But I think what I'm gonna do, this won't help on the front end of showings, but I'm gonna send out an automated email, whatever my seller's offering, when they schedule showing, that automated email is gonna go out and be like, hey, by the way, my seller's offering
Concessions.
concessions.
Okay, so hang on, because
It can't be connected to showing time, I thought.
it can't be connected to Showing Time or Broker Bay.
Okay, I'll send an email then.
But I'm wondering if an email, because you can't advertise it on Showing Time or Broker Bay.
But that goes out
But if
under
you send out an
response.
automated email from Broker Bay or Showing Time,
It's just an email.
I would just have it come from you.
that's getting gray area.
But if it were me, I would not send it an automated email from broker or showing service. I wouldn't because they're connected to MLS.
But if it's an automated email that happens after the fact of somebody's showing,
They don't know ahead of time, they're.
Right. when
You're not
getting
advertising it.
feedback, When you're getting.
it's not
feedback.
public. It's a private conversation. You're not sending it to everyone. You're sending it to one agent. Same difference as you emailing.
Emailing it.
Every time you get a showing request, you sitting at your computer and going, hey, my seller is offering, blah, blah, blah.
Just
create a template in your emails and just email the.
I mean, I would want to know.
Well, because that's what we,
I just
that's
depends what-
we do in our showings now. We have started to where like if somebody, well, we didn't do this when the market was hot. But now when we have a showing and we have a showing request, we automatically email upgrades, seller's disclosures,
Yep,
survey, and
survey.
any pertinent information, put it in the inbox where the showing ever happened.
Absolutely.
And I also just
Good business.
I call them or text them and just say, hey, this is who I am. Please let me know if you have any questions.
That's what I'm saying. Please let me, well, in this market, I'm like, please let me know if your buyer has any specific.
Exactly.
In this market, yes,
This-
but in pandemic market, when you were getting 60 requests in 3 days,
Sent
you,
one out that said my seller will only do this.
Well, let's cross that bridge. when we get
Right, we're probably never going back to pandemic market.
And,
No, I don't wanna be
You
there.
know, just stay in the day and
Yeah.
that's what our business really is. Nobody has 27 listings right now. And so we can handle it and just shoot it out there, communicate, sell your listing.
Yep.
Yeah, sell it.
okay, last point, and then we're gonna call it a meeting. Down here at the bottom, this final amendment right here, sorry, Maria, 2701, right here, when and how to use this. If you signed a representation agreement with a buyer or a seller, that means a buyer rep agreement or a listing agreement prior to June 24th, and they are not under contract by August 17th, you must file a 2701 with the office in Reach. Every buyer, every seller, if you got an agreement with somebody right now that is open-ended and you're showing houses through the end of the year, or you're listing through the end of the year, I gotta have a 2701 on August 17th. I need it today. We got a month. It change and you don't know. But on August 17th, we have to have you must have a 2701 in place to be compliant.
Or do a new one.
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
Terminate your old one. Oh, speaking of that, a couple of people over the last couple of weeks have asked me to go in and change things on MLS that you don't have access to, that only the broker does, like a canceled status, putting it on hold, things like that you guys don't have access to. If you decide to terminate a listing agreement or a buyer rep agreement, please use the termination form that is there in Zip Forms. There is a termination of listing agreement. There's a termination of listing. Just type in the search bar, termination, look for it. Or text me and go, Brian, what do I use? Please.
But not for a hold.
Not for a hold. Hold you have access to, I believe.
Yeah.
You can take TLM.
No, I wasn't able to. Remember I had to send it to you.
Well, then I just need an amendment.
Okay.
And that says, take it off the market on this date until, that can be open-ended there. Until we get the repairs done, whatever the case may be. That's our meeting. Missy's having surgery next Tuesday, so I will be here probably Wednesday. Jimmy's running the meeting. Jimmy agreed to run the meeting. Woo! And I'll talk to Jimmy about Zelle Venmo for that. And then I'll ask JC about your question, and I'll ask him about the possibility of us having a website where we.
We asked about the broker rate thing, if we can send an automated email too.
Yeah, I'll ask.
I mean, I can do it myself, but it would be easy just to automate it.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for coming for breakfast. Please join us next Wednesday morning, 9:45, while Kirsty and Fidelity Home Warranty are here. Bye.
Hold on. So.
Hello.
He is no longer off. He's going with his.
This mastermind tomorrow with just a networking group.
How's Chris?
And then he is another layer of all the things.
Can I steal your charger for a second, Brian?